First of all, I'm a big automation enthusiast, is what I call myself, where if anything has to be repeated more than twice or thrice, I'm like, a human being should not be doing that. If it doesn't have any judgment involved, we need to leverage automation so that we human beings are equipped to really help with judging things or making decisions and then doing things. If it is a repetitive task, it is not for human beings because we have more interesting things now to work on.
You, like our guest, Prakash Kota, the CIO of Autodesk, may also be an automation enthusiast. And you might be already automating many of the household tasks in your daily chores list. Consumer automations are fun and have transformed society in many ways, but cultivating an automation mindset for enterprises is where the exciting changes of the future are happening now. As we wrap up our three-part automation series, Prakash shares more about the way Autodesk is guiding the innovation of the future thanks to automation. Our automation series is brought to you by Salesforce Platform and Dreamforce 2022. We don't want you to miss out on the world's largest software conference with a healthy dose of magic. So log in to salesforce.com/plus for more automation-focused sessions. Welcome everyone to another episode of IT Visionaries, and today we are doing a little something different. It is our automation series where we're talking to some of the top tech leaders in the world about their role, their companies, and what they're doing with automation today. For today's guest, we have Prakash Kota. He is the CIO of a company called Autodesk. He's been on IT Visionaries before. If you want to learn more about him and his career, click the link in the show notes below. We're going to send you to the original episode. But Prakash, welcome back to IT Visionaries, man.
Thank you, Albert. Thanks for having me.
Hey, listen, if just in case anyone hasn't gotten a chance to listen to that first episode, let's set the stage so our audience gets to know. If you could, really quick, tell our audience what exactly is Autodesk and what does it do? Because it's one of those companies that's huge, but not a lot of people, like, I don't use Autodesk. I don't know what it is, right? So give our audience a flavor of what this is.
Yeah, no, Autodesk, our vision is a better world designed and made for all. And so we make design software so that our customers can make anything. Literally anything. So most of the folks know us through AutoCAD or a design software or a CAD software, and we are beyond that. And we have been in the industry since 1982, helping designers, architects, all the folks who have this great imaginary power to design things, to bring it to real world of what the new possibilities are. And that's what we do. So we give our tools to them and we tell them to stretch their imaginary power so that they can really bring the new possible and build our future that is sustainable and that is for all. And so that's what we do. We are into engineering, construction, manufacturing, media and entertainment, wide variety of design products. And we used to ship DVDs to our customers when I first joined Autodesk, and now we give our access to the cloud, access to our products in the cloud. So we are a subscription-only company, and so we have gone through a huge transformation. And I have been fortunate and lucky enough to participate and to be part of that journey.
I use the analogy, because you mentioned designers. When I was talking to some of the other team members about who you were in the company was, I said, how Adobe Creative Suites for like anyone who wants to make something beautiful and design centric, the designers Autodesk caters to are going to be making physical, beautiful things that are in the real world that they got to touch. And typically they got to work. I like to say that like there's like a level of science involved that's got to work. We're not talking about, making an eraser. You know what I mean? Like we're talking about something that has to like have some type of structural integrity for sure. Autodesk is involved. When we think about like what you just said, this evolution of the company, you talked about earlier being there from the days of shipping CDs and CD-ROMs to customers so they can download that. We're here today to talk about automation and how it's fundamentally transformed the way we deliver services and also run businesses and internal business units. Give us an idea for yourself. How has automation changed the way Autodesk has been able to scale their business? Because every CIO we talk to talks about just, multiple components of what it's doing for them. From your perspective, what are you seeing it's enabling your team to do, and what are some of the critical functions or features or critical capabilities it's unlocking for your company?
Yeah, no, if you look at it, right, see, for me, first of all, I'm a big automation enthusiast, is what I call myself, where if anything has to be repeated more than twice or thrice, I'm like, a human being should not be doing that. If it doesn't have any judgment involved, we need to leverage automation so that we human beings are equipped to really help with judging things or making decisions and then doing things. If it is a repetitive task, it is not for human beings because we have more interesting things now to work on. And so this is where we have to augment with automation to really scale. So for us, when we see automation, right? So we were also, when I talk about it from a company lens standpoint, we were in the design space, but we are also helping our customers once they design, when they want to bring it to the real world, how do we
Mm.
help automate the process from the design state to bring it to the real world? There is always so much wastage that happens, planning, inefficiencies that create. So we are also trying to come up ways and tools so that our customers can automate their turning the design into reality. That's one aspect. For me, and with my responsibility, the where I focus a lot is on experience. For me, automation is a tactic used to create a frictionless experience. For us, self-service and experience is a key goal in the company, whether we talk about customers, partners, or employees. What do I mean by self-service? We all have this consumer mentality. We want everything instantaneously. We are just like, we don't have it. One thing that we all don't have now that we used to have is patience.
Yeah, no
Like we
patience.
need, no, now, I need now. And with a click of a button, you can't take 4 or 5 steps. Nobody has any more patience to read a run book or a notebook to understand how do I set this up. It has to be one click away, which means you need to hide the complexity and you need to bring that user experience forward. And all that happens behind is magic for the user, but it's all the experience and all that needs to be done. And how is it done? Through automated steps, through workflows that we connect together, stitch together. And that's what for me is automation, is hiding complexity, giving that consumer-like experience on demand.
Give us some examples of what are some of the things that you and your company have automated. And I'd love to hear like kind of the evolution of it because automation is one of those things where it depends on who you are, but it sounds like
Correct.
you got a team that thrives and enjoys this idea of let's solve these problems. But we have heard nightmare stories in the past of people saying, "Hey, they're not certain. Hey, there's a lot of exceptions." Like a lot of times, I joke at my company. I always say, "Hey, I don't want to manage exceptions. Let's manage to the standard and allow the exceptions to figure it out self. I don't want to like say we have to build for the
Build.
exceptions. That sounds terrible, right? Give us
I'm
an
with
idea of
you.
some of the things. Yeah, how did you start embarking on this journey? What were some of the things that you first started deciding to automate, and then of course, kind of give us a flavor for how you do and shoot what you choose to automate today.
Yeah. No, I think good question. It again, it's not because automation and because I'm a technologist by heart too. So engineer by domain, how I grew up. So naturally, love to build things,
Right.
and so it's not about automation is a technology cool thing that I want to do. We start everything with what outcomes do we want to achieve, and what process do we want to streamline, and how does the business process or workflows work, and how do we really remove the friction, and where does automation come into play. So that's the approach we take, and there are several tools that we have leveraged, whether it's an RPA, intelligent automation, hyper automation, citizenship development, you name it. It differs from area to area, but all how we started is like, you take an example, you have a new employee joining us, and there is a set of processes that needs to be done because we
Mm.
are recruiting big time, because we are scaling and growing as a company. And if we're scaling and growing, we can't have the same repeated manual steps of process to onboard an employee, because the steps are very same. And can we really streamline that, automate that through one click process so that the hiring manager doesn't need to keep relearning the same processes over and over again as they recruit, or forget what the processes were and then get panic before a new employee joins? How do we make it streamlined? How do we make that experience seamless? And also for the new employee, we don't want to create anxiety when they're joining us to really figure out, I don't know how all the processes work. I don't know what all tools they use. That should not be their fear. If we are hiring them for a specific role, whether it is in engineering, whether it is in finance, legal, HR, marketing, whatever division it is, we are hiring for your domain expertise, not to get worried about all the tools and processes that you need to know how to use. For that, for me, that's an experience that we need to create seamlessly. Like you don't need to know our recipe of everything, how things work here. It should be seamless because we were never taught how to install an iPhone or how to start using it, or somebody didn't come and teach us. We figured it out. And that's the mindset we have. So we really define what the outcomes we want to drive. From an employee experience standpoint, our goal is what are those actions that employees are taking repeatedly? And what are the five top actions that are pushing where we are getting a lot of service requests or actions, or they are requiring human help? How can we continuously automate those things so that they can go for self-help or reach out when it's required on demand rather than waiting for somebody else to respond to those requests? So we are continuously looking at users' behaviors in the way they consume things, and how do we remove that friction? And we have also launched chatbots. Like this week, we also launched our first universal chatbot as an example. We used to have an IT bot. Now we are
Hmm.
expanding elsewhere. Like, how do we have a universal chatbot where it's not specifically, oh, this is an IT bot, that's a HR bot, this is a finance bot or a travel bot? Like, we don't want to have 10 bots. So the goal is, how do we have one universal bot for an employee that they can go and ask to get whatever they need instantaneously? So it's almost like
That's pretty good.
it's a buddy that they have.
Yeah.
It's a buddy that they have that they can really look into. And so that's the kind of automation that we are doing behind the scenes for the experiences we want to drive.
So for a company the size of Autodesk, the one thing that we've learned from every company or CIO that's been on this show, and of course, Mission is a small company and we have a lot of software's steps and process. So then I would imagine at a company like Autodesk, it's like 10 times more. And there's this idea that we used to think of automation as building between two technologies. Now it's like layered technologies where like this, action in one tool is going to cause an action in another, and it's going to cause downstream effects into multiple tools to automate that process as simple as possible. When you think for yourself, what does it take? How do you evaluate which things to invest in? Because you mentioned before you start at the outcome. Hey, I want, for example, you said earlier, faster onboarding. So then you're going to look at all the steps in between that make it slow and say, what can we automate here? That's when you think about it that way. I mean, it makes complete sense. But at the same time, you're probably also getting requests, like people are trying to also ask you to,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah,
Prakash, can you
correct.
fix this for me? How do you figure out, how do you evaluate what you're going to work on? Because when those inbound requests come, do you try to map them back to goals? Do you try to map them back to just who it is? How do you try to map out and what you're going to choose to invest your time and energy in
Yeah,
trying to automate that
I
process?
that's a great question, Albert. That's a typical tricky challenge because we only have X amount of capacity, and how many
Yeah.
can you really solve? See, first is outcomes, the next is impact. When we do ruthless prioritization in Autodesk, what we go through is, when I finish achieving these outcomes, how many users does this impact? If it is
Mm.
going to be impacting all employee base in the way this works, or a particular persona of employees, or if it is just going to impact me and my dog, then you know what? You just get over it and figure out a manual process because we can't get to it. But maybe so this is where the prioritization takes first about outcomes, next impact. How broad is it going to impact? What is the user base? And then prioritize it. In some cases, right, more and more as we are scaling as a company and the maturity in automation, we are also getting to a stage where I don't need to have my team automate it for others. This is where the whole reskilling and upleveling and upskilling is happening in several divisions in the across the company, where we are enabling teams to self-automate within their own portfolio what they can
Oh, that's
and
cool.
consume it on the platform. I call it citizen automation, citizen development and citizen automation, where we are not in the mindset of, no, I'm in the mindset of how do I enable them, not do the work for them. How do I create platforms that they can consume to be effective and productive, not get needing to, okay, get back in queue, take a token, wait for your turn. Nobody has patience again.
How, if I'm a CIO and I just heard that, where I agree. Citizen development is one of those terms that has been used, quite a bit. Let's say the last 5 years or maybe less. But it's not I can tell you from interviewing different CIOs and CTOs at different companies that it's not everywhere yet. It's definitely not
Correct.
everywhere yet. Well, how do you go about promoting that culture? Because that's something that is amazingly powerful, right? Which is this autonomous thinking, this idea that, hey, I work, this is my department and or my team, this is what we do. We have identified a way to possibly make our jobs easier so that we can do more of the critical work, like you said, like the repetitive tasks, like how do I get this out of my job? And you're saying, hey, you've now educated or taught me as a person that can just do it, implement it. How did you go about building that culture, that capability? Because I think that is something that many CIOs want to know. Like,
Yeah.
how'd you do that?
I think you touched on a critical word through that question is the culture. And everything, whatever we do, connects back to our top goals. This is one thing our CEO and CEO staff are very, very particular about. Like, we clearly have to define goals and KPIs, what we want to achieve. And we are still a company of that size, even though we are considered as a big company. We all feel like every one of us can move the needle and create an
Mm.
impact. And so, when whatever we do is connected to the top goals, the top line goals, I think people are not worried about, oh, if I do this, what will I do? We don't have that fear, especially when you're in hyper growth mode. You are really all thinking about is scaling and moving fast, but at the same time, not compromising on quality and experience. And when you're in a software company with full of engineers, I think they would love this kind of open setup. And we are also been recruiting a lot of early career talent coming into the pool where they want to be self-served. They don't want to be given, okay, you do this way. No more run books work for them. They're like, no, no, enable me. I will figure out how to do it. And so we are also adapting big time. I think culture plays a big role. And as long as all of your employees see the overall vision and where we are headed and why everybody has a role on to create that impact, I think that fear factor will not be there. Fear of being left out will not be there. And people will be supporting and helping each other so that we can keep moving forward together.
Also, yeah, based on that answer, I was, it sounds for sure like other companies might be hampered with bureaucracy. It sounds like you don't have that problem. It's like, hey, we are encouraging people to take control of this and build forward towards the future.
Yeah, I think, and it's also self-realization, Albert. Like, we need
Yeah.
to know we had a legacy, but we are a different company now, where we are continuously need to continuously provide value to our customers and to retain and to show that in the subscription model. So we realize that having that self-realization is an important aspect of where we need to go.
Yeah, absolutely. When you think about when I think about what you've said in some of the earlier conversation, also you mentioned certain technologies that you've invested in. Things have changed to make it easier to do this. What are you investing in? You mentioned RPA earlier. What are you investing in, or what are you really excited about seeing inside your organization that's going to help this automated future? Because RPA is one of the ones that is obviously a big,
Yeah.
it's a category that didn't exist 6 years ago. It feels like it didn't exist. Right now, it's huge. Give us an idea where you're investing your time, energy, and where do you see technologies and categories that are most promising to help automate the future?
See, we are investing across the board in technology, people, and process, I would say, because in some
Mm.
cases it's more up leveling of our talent to really leverage some of these tools. And the technology also is changing at a rapid pace than before. So we have been bringing in new tools, testing it out, what makes sense, and if it doesn't make sense, we are changing tools behind the scenes that the user should not even know. As an example, I told you we had a bot and we just launched a universal bot. Behind the scenes, there is a technology change that happened, but the users don't know. For them, it's a capability that existed, and today it's coming from a different technology behind the scenes. So that's something that we have to be very mindful of when we are building, because the technology is changing at such rapid pace. We are always thinking about capabilities that we are giving to our employees, as an example, or even customers. They should not know, or we should not expect them to learn that particular technology. Because
Yeah.
if we are doing it right, we are hiding that complexity. They are only leveraging and consuming the capability, not a technology. And so we have been very, very particular about giving that experience layer where they don't need to know about a particular technology. And so we have been investing, whether it's RPA, chatbots, or just automation, workflow automations, or automations within a particular applications, whether it is within Salesforce or whether it is across different landscape, whatever we have, some within the applications we are trying to automate, some connecting multiple applications, the workflows. There are different technologies that we are investing in.
You know, you mentioned it loosely just a moment ago about all these different technologies, but this culture that, and I keep pulling out of what you're saying, this it's kind of the culture of experimentation and learning that you seem to have cultivated,
Totally.
right? Because you mentioned
Totally.
before, hey, we are testing, we want an outcome, like you said earlier, we want this outcome. There are great suppliers of technology that could possibly help us get there.
Correct.
And you're saying, hey, we're going to figure out which one of these is going to help us get there faster, better, whatever the case may be, something better than all the others, in this constant thirst for application. And then you also, in what you said, very customer centric too, right? Where you said, hey, if we do it, the people using it cannot know.
Exactly.
That's very customer centric. Because if I know it's a problem, I'll put a wrench in your automation because I'm going to introduce the support tickets. You're going to get flooded with support tickets. You won't be automating anything.
Because it's a change fatigue for the user. For them, it's a change and a lot of stress, and we don't want to have them that stress.
When this show is sponsored by Salesforce, you mentioned it earlier. They also want to know how are you using Salesforce also to help you in your automation journey? Because for a lot of people, like I know that what we did back in the day was mostly about contracts, right? So Salesforce held all our customer information. It definitely automated the contracting process. It was a huge help for yourselves. What are you guys using Salesforce for? Because obviously a treasure trove of data about customers in there. And it sounds like you guys, since you're so customer centric, how is that helping you implement technologies, automations to help better your customer and employee experiences?
Yeah, I think multiple ways, but one or two examples, if I can highlight. You touched on it. Let's take that example, customers. Our customer information typically in any CRM resides in Salesforce. And if you look at the model that we have sales organizations and we have customer success organization who are also working with our customers. And the one thing that we want to do right is how do we enable both the salespeople as well as the customer success people know about the customers well enough and equip them in a right way quickly so that they can have meaningful conversations with customers to drive better outcomes for our customers. It's not about the tools and their jobs. What we ultimately think is the outcome we are working on is how do they serve customers better. And so which means we need to make it seamless for them of creating, and we created something within Salesforce called customer portal, where we created this so that when salespeople, sales reps, sales agents, or customer success managers or agents go in, they particularly inquire about a customer, it gives them the required information that both sales needs and customer success needs, and one set of information. It's not like two different things. Things are stitched behind the scenes, automated, but both of them see the same information and they can have meaningful conversation with the customers in driving their outcomes. And so that I have seen a lot of, we call named account reps and salespeople tell that was so useful. I had the information that I needed quickly, so I was able to have meaningful conversation with the customer, which landed in a great outcome for both customer and Autodesk. So that's one example. And the other thing we use is we have omni-channel, so we use Salesforce Voice, which is connected to different telecom providers behind the scenes. But when a customer calls us, we want to make sure skill-based routing. We want to make sure when we route a particular call to an agent, it goes to the right agent who has the right skill for the reason why customer is calling. We don't want to randomly send the call to whoever is available on the floor and then keep routing it to different people. So we want.
We've all been there. Us poor customers, we've all been there. We call someone and you feel like you repeated the problem like 7 times, and then let me pass you to this next department. And you're like, oh, do I have to say it again?
Exactly. And we have been there too, but this is the learning that we have had. How do we get
Yeah.
better at it? And how do we make the best use of the agent's time on the floor? Because each one has different strength. So how do we route it to the right place? One agent has good experience. Mainly, customer also has a great experience in getting the issue resolved or getting whatever they needed. So I think all of these things play a huge role as examples.
That last piece you just hit at, I've never thought of it that way, but I can see it, right? Whatever you're best at is you're probably going to be happy. You're going to be able to solve those problems the best so that your experience is best
Correct.
because we as employees, I mean, people inevitably want to feel like they're helping and contributing. So if I'm frustrated because
Correct.
I'm constantly getting hit with questions that I'm got to research or look up, then I know, I
Correct.
mean, I got to know. I know I'm not doing that great because every question's like, I don't know the answer. I got to look this up. And so I
Exactly.
can see that it's actually building a better work experience too for your agents, right? Because they're
Correct.
more, I guess, in their domain expertise.
Exactly.
That's something I've never thought about, man. That is that. I mean, now you say that it's so simple. I don't know why it's not more widely adopted. I guess it's easy to say, hard to do, right?
We're all going through the journeys, so we all take our steps and learnings to get there before we get there.
Yeah. When you mentioned earlier, the part of Autodesk is this new division or this new lines of business where you're actually really helping customers bring their physical designs to life, right? So I've designed it in AutoCAD. Okay, that's now I've reached that next step. The next step, of course, is to get the product or physical product made. I can definitely see the need for automation in that realm of the business significantly because now you're talking about doing a lot of things that you won't have the signals. It's a lot different to automate for software, I've always said, because in software you can change things really quickly and you can recognize the signals of what's happening, and then the impact or the cause or outcome needs to happen in the software as well. So if you're like providing updates for a SaaS user, that's easy. But when you're helping or like your success teams do things in the physical world, getting that data to know that, hey, this design's been approved, hey, that they've gone through this revision, that means that this is going to be implemented soon. I can see these like cues being
Totally.
immensely helpful because getting things built in the physical world is quite challenging. I didn't know if
Totally.
you had the same experiences and if your customers were seeing the same thing.
I think that customers, as they start using more and more of our products and incorporating them up in the chain, I think this is the value we expect them to see. Like them
Mm-hmm.
also having little wastage to no wastage when they bring their designs to reality. Because sometimes what happens, you have an idea, thought process, then you bring to reality, you didn't expect the way it used to be, then you go back and do. We don't see, while we want to save some, it's not just about their cost of doing projects. It's also sustainability is a big thing. All of us talk about it. Where we feel strongly
Mm.
is we make a huge impact. If you are not doing wastage to our natural resources, which are always scarce, you're also helping in saving the planet. And we all have a responsibility. And I feel like our design products really help customers to be mindful while they are creating. They are also creating in a sustainable way, which will help the planet for long term. So that's what really connects to the purpose. I get really excited about it because it's not just about you're doing something that helps your customers, also the broader planet and ecosystem.
That's pretty fascinating. Is that some? It sounds like, I mean, for sure, it's something you guys are expanding into. Like, what could it potentially look like in the future, or maybe we're already there? Because I'm when you said that, I started imagining like, what if Autodesk was tied into the supply chain so that I'm designing something,
See,
let's say made of metal, and it could figure out like, hey, you should order this much metal because this is all you need. I was like, what? Like
and
that'd be cool.
Yeah, and I'm sure all of these people, that's why I keep telling, if you are in a building, the building that was constructed or the chair that you're sitting or the phone that you're using, very likely that they have been designed using Autodesk software before they came into the real world. So that's
Right.
why I tell, and that's how I connect people to when I talk about Autodesk and who we are, that's how I explain so that that connects to them. Oh, everything actually, everything, literally everything.
Yeah, yeah, and I can see that like the downstream impacts of automation potential. Like when you say that, how do you envision? What do you think like the next 5 years is going to unlock? Because innovation goes so rapid. I hate to say 10 because ten's like I don't even
Yeah.
know what will happen in 10 years. but 5 years seems more plausible. Like what's going to happen in 2027? What do you how do you think this is going to change the way your customers, the way us as consumers of these products? What do you think is going to unlock? You mentioned the better impacts for the environment. That makes sense. Like being able
Yeah.
to more laser in on optimal materials, optimum uses of materials, that to reduce material waste. That makes a lot of sense. Give us any other ideas of how this type
See,
of automation and innovation is going to impact the future.
yeah, on top of that, right, I think companies, including Autodesk, I mean, if companies are not doing intelligent or hyper automation today, they need to know that they are behind.
Mm.
But because it's you have to either have some of the work around automation, irrespective of what industry you are, you need to leverage it. It's not about replacing human workforce or not. I'm not a big believer of that. I'm a big believer of augmenting technology with human beings to really scale things. And so I feel like we have talked about citizen development and citizen automation. It is going to be huge, and consumerization is going to be, if not already there, it'll become the expectation of users going forward. And the only way you can continuously learn about users, because users' behavior keeps changing. It's not a one time
Yeah.
constant. You like this today and tomorrow you like something else. And how do I learn? I can't keep asking you to tell me what do you like. Based on your behavior, we need to know what do you like, Albert, and then I need to give you that personalized experience. So this hyper personalized experiences is what we will be expecting to create irrespective of what industry you are, and that requires a lot of understanding about the underlying data, as well as creating that appropriate automation and stitching things together to get you that experience and to hide that complexity. I think it's a fun play. I mean, wherever you are, I think it'll be really fun to really do these kind of experiences and to give, whether it's to your employees, customers, or partners. I think there people are going to be having this expectation, and that's where we will need to be investing in this, especially data space, understanding and leveraging the data that we have about the users while maintaining privacy and other aspects, because which are very important, but really giving them that personalized experiences through automation is going to be a huge factor in future.
I think you echoed the sentiments of some of the RPA leaders that we've had on our shows before, talking about exactly that, which is most automation does not take jobs. Automation unlocks innovation, meaning you no longer have to do or waste your time doing things that weren't creating a ton of value. It was more like, hey, it was brute force labor. Like you had to get these reports filed, or you had to create you had to create these work streams, or you had to be a part of the process. Whereas if you could just automate the back end process, we think about it on our side. So like kind of give you a little snapshot, even though my company's way small, right? It's not an Autodesk, but we work in the podcast industry, and the reality is a lot of the podcast tools don't really have APIs for publishing. They all are trying to like make you use their product. So if you want to put it across many platforms, it's sometimes a bit of a challenge, and the data collection's a real challenge. So like, but that's where a lot of our time is spent. And I think to myself, like, if there were ever APIs, 100% our team should, just like you said, invest in the automation so that we have a better outcome. My outcome is I would want my customers to have more real time reporting, so and also my employees not to have to do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it
they
doesn't
can do
create
something
value.
interesting. Yeah, they can
I
do
mean, it's
something
valuable,
interesting.
but it doesn't create value. It's a lot of labor.
Yeah, I'm with you.
When you think about the future of Autodesk, Autodesk is such a massive company, and it's also a company of companies, right? So if I go to, like, for example, if I were to go to Autodesk social media page, and for anyone that wants to go check this out, you can go to get an idea of how big Autodesk is. Okay, if I go there, there's like 50, more than 50 social media pages. You're talking about different industries, different groups, different departments, different. It sounds like products. You have university, construction solutions, assemble systems, BIM 360, building connected. These are all. How does this work? Are these all divisions in your company? Do you oversee the whole thing? Give me an idea. Give our audience an idea
Yeah.
of how
So
big Autodesk is.
we have definitely multiple product lines within those industry verticals, and where we are focusing, and of course, as all employees of the company, I am responsible for their internal technology and their experiences and the enterprise systems that I own and manage. Uh, the what we are trying to do is, as a subscription company, how do we create a platform kind of experience? The next step that we want to do is we also all of these products, we may have customers who are using 50 of our products as an example, and we
That's
don't
wild.
And because these are like designers, that's their main job. And
Yeah.
so how do we really give them that platform with continuous new enhancements and features? Because with subscription model, it's not a one time thing, it's continuous
Mm.
value we want to generate. And we are also not innovating at the scale of, okay, wait for an yearly release to give you the next DVD. No, it's like 50 releases today. We iterate very fast, which means they need to keep getting continuous value. So we are thinking more about platform concept. How do we give them this platform where they can really innovate and leverage the products that we have, multiple products, and not needing to figure out each one separately? So we are putting a lot of investment in, really, again, if you look at all of these products are complexity for customers. How do we hide that so that we give them a set of platforms that they can use to really get, and all they get is capabilities and features from all of these products, and they don't need to know, oh, I need to go and get this product if I need to get this feature. That's something that we want to hide, and we really want to give them the subscription kind of true subscription experience where you need to worry about the platform and capabilities keep appearing as we innovate.
Yeah, that and I'm gotta ask this question because it's a question that every or not every I would say yeah no I'll say every CIO has to deal with this challenge, right? Because at the
Correct.
same time you're unlocking like independence and innovation at the team, some
Correct.
autonomy. Like this team
At
is
scale,
working,
yeah.
right? But you also have to have commonality in some
Correct.
capacities
And
because
reusability
it has to come together.
come
you
together.
can't have
Exactly.
you can't have each company turn into its own
Totally.
Frankenstein of tech stack that doesn't work with the main product, right? You can't have it so
Totally.
that, like you just mentioned, you can't have a major design shop. Like if I'm a massive manufacturing architecture studio, whatever it may be, log into every Autodesk product is just completely different. Like because then it'll
Yeah.
never come together. So how do you maintain that balance? We're saying, hey, we're going to use best of breed. You're going to have autonomy. You got to pick this, but at the same time, you can't diverge too far from this because otherwise, this is too hard to assemble together and deliver as a unified experience.
Yeah. No, I think, see, there is vertical strength and there is a horizontal experience that we need to create. We have to connect all these verticals together uniformly to give horizontal experience. And that's where we are investing a lot of time, where our CTO organization are spending a lot of
Mm.
time in how to do that, bring all product verticals together, or have a commonality where we can be reuse so that we don't need to keep reinventing stuff. See, at the end of the day, all we are looking for is how do we give more value to our customers frequently, and how do we hide this, and wherever it is not needed, redundant work that we used to do, can we avoid, or can we leverage each other teams rather than reusing or recreating what others have created.
No, it's a no question a big challenge. I'm just curious for yourself. How long is like I guess I guess you guys do proof of concepts. How long are those phases of, hey, if I
It
want to build something, give
it
me an idea
varies.
how this
It
how this
varies.
how this project
Yeah,
kicks
no, I'd
off.
say it varies initiative to initiative. We definitely have a very agile mindset. So we
Mm-hmm.
want to test out things, and sometimes it take a couple of sprints to really figure out certain things, test out proof of technology and proof of concept, and sometimes it takes 3 to 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
And but it is still definitely still in the order of months and sprints, not years. As an example, it's not like a
Yeah.
waterfall mentality. We just do everything and figure out after a year or two that, oh, this doesn't work, and you have to scrap it, kind of stuff. That mentality is not there. While we're okay to fail, but we want to learn very quickly.
There you go. So that agility is definitely the common theme, and like you said, your customers are demanding too because they keep changing themselves. Prakash, it was awesome having you coming back and joining us on IT Visionaries to talk more about automation's role in building the future. I think Autodesk has a unique, you particularly have a unique seat because you are building software that is building the future.
Yeah.
So then you have to service that future. This is particularly interesting. I want to say thank you for joining us today on IT Visionaries, Prakash. But before you go, we still have it, baby. It's the lightning round. The lightning round is brought to us by Salesforce Platform, the #1 platform digital transformation of every experience. This is where we ask you questions outside of the realm of work to get to for our audience to get to know you a little bit better. You ready?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
All right. You came from CDs, now you're shipping software. Rewind as a service. Rewind 20 years. What advice would you give yourself?
It's a good question. See, I would say, take more bold decisions, be more bold, and don't be afraid to fail. I feel like I used to be more conservative than what I am today. So,
Hmm.
and so one advice that I would give is take more risks, take bold decisions. It'll all work out in long term.
Oh, I like that. If you could change one thing about your industry, what would it be?
See, if you don't think, just not about my industry, this is one thing I'm super passionate about, diversity and inclusion. While this is a topic that everybody speaks about it, I'm a person that believes that this is not just a slide on an all hands deck or a poster on the wall. We take it very seriously. And while there's so much inequality that we're trying to catch up on, I feel
Hmm.
like I wish that this diversity and inclusion, the gap that is there, is bridged faster and faster. So that's one thing that I would say. This is one space where I hope things move faster and get to a better state, that where we all want to be, because it'll drive good outcomes too, actually. Diverse opinions, diverse viewpoints really get better outcomes. We have all seen so many statistics on it. So that's one thing that I have a strong opinion on.
No, I couldn't agree more. For yourself, what do you find to be the current most challenging thing to deal with as a leader?
See, as a leader, right, like, uh, it's the adaptability. We have seen in the last several years, things have been very fluid. The world has been
Yeah.
going through changes.
Yeah.
So I would say some of the characteristics is like being adaptable, having that humility, and empathy and understanding about people. And really, I think it is making me a better leader. Over the last 2 years, I feel like these are some of the things that I've been deliberately focusing on, which is helping me to be a better leader every day. Lot more to go, but it's continuously helping.
No, no, I think that's your adaptability is exactly that. I mean, I think that's the one thing every current leader probably has to have is whatever it is you're doing today, it might not work tomorrow. You just got to be good with that. You just got to be good with that and say, hey, I'm going to solve the problem for tomorrow, right?
Yeah, and some of the aspects, right? Like when you talk like the challenging aspects of being a leader, we have this culture code of think, feel, and do, where like we have attributes, culture values of where we say being smart, innovative, and then where we say being impactful, inclusive, and being pragmatic and courageous in the way we do things. So we put them under the category of think, feel, and do. It's very important for leaders to balance all the three aspects. It's not this or that. That's
Yeah.
where it becomes challenging. How do you balance all the think, feel, do aspects of the culture values?
There you go. Hey, Prakash, it was awesome having you. I like I just like your mindset of and how you explain what you're building there at Autodesk. When I think about building, you guys are building the future for people building the future. Across 13,000 plus employees. At least that's what it says on LinkedIn. There's probably any more, right? I think about the immense challenges that are there and how, I mean, like you kind of hit at it. The only way you or the company is going to solve it is these solutions got to come from the people that are closest to the problem. Thanks for joining us today on IT Visionaries. For those of you that are curious, yes, Prakash said it. Autodesk is probably used by 100% of the companies that built the things that are in your house, your chairs. Like if you're sitting on it, if you're living in it, if it supports any weight at all, probably built on Autodesk.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining us today on IT Visionaries.
Thank you, Albert, for having me.
Our automation series is brought to you by Salesforce Platform and Dreamforce 2022. We don't want you to miss out on the world's largest software conference with a healthy dose of magic. So log in to salesforce.com/plus for more automation focused sessions.